All right, so welcome and thank you for joining us for first quarter Entrepreneurs in Action, where we're going to expand our knowledge by listening to three local entrepreneurs in the Menominee area. During this episode, please feel free to drop any questions for any of the presenters you may have in the chat. We'll probably get to those the last 10 minutes or so of our time together. We expend a special welcome and thank you to our appreciation that volunteered their time today. As I said, Lacy O'Connell with Lakeview Floral, John Craning with Synergy Retirement Planning Strategies, and Tonya Clem with Thrive Psychological and Consulting Services, PCS. So this panel was selected intentionally. It's winter. We got another winter storm, lovely weather out there this week. So mental health numbers pick up. And so what do we do about it? So we have Tonya Clem here to talk a little bit about that. Lacy, it's been shown that fragrance and colors can help boost that thought process. And then it's snowing, I want to get out of here. It's cold, I want to go somewhere warm. So John's going to teach us how to retire and how to save and live comfortably through that retirement. So we're going to just go in alphabetical order. So Lacy, if you would take some time to introduce yourself, share a little bit about your story, and those for listening, just feel free to sit back, relax, take notes, and don't forget any questions you may have for them. So Lacy, feel free.
Awesome. Thank you for that great introduction. My name is Lacy. I own Lakeview Floral and Gifts here in Menominee. I purchased it in 2006. So it's been 17 years about now. And it's gone really fast. When you hear the number, it's kind of like, oh man, how did that even happen? I guess as an entrepreneurial journey to get here, it happened a lot faster than I thought. I was like 23 when I bought it, and I thought there's no way I'm old enough to do this. But now looking back, I'm glad that I did it young. I had a lot more energy and a lot less responsibility. So I could really devote more time. Lakeview had been an existing business in Menominee. It's been in town since 1951, and I bought it as an existing business from the bosses that I had worked for when I was here in high school. So yeah, a little different than like starting from the ground up. Kind of got to take the reins over from some other previous entrepreneurs, and then have spent the last 17 years trying to steward that well, and still serve the community well the way that it had been doing prior to. So yeah.
John, if you'd like to share a little bit about Synergy Retirement Planning Strategies.
Sure, thanks, Melissa. John Craning. I've been in the financial services industry for about 17 years. I started out with another company, then went out on my own back in 2015. So it's been about 7.5 years. I've been on my own. And then we rebranded back in the beginning of 2020. It seems longer than that, but it's only been about 3 years now. And so we rebranded to Synergy Retirement Planning Strategies, from the standpoint of we offer various services, one of them being fee-only financial planning. And so it helped differentiate ourselves from others. Thought the rebranding would work well. Had done some research on colors, and some of our other colors weren't, the good colors or whatever they say. So we changed the color scheme and a few other things from that perspective. So it's been about 3 years rebranded with the current name. I said we offer and it's been good. It was a learning experience, right? Going from the one company to 2015, stepping out back at zero. So I still remember on July 13th, 2015 is when my first day on my own, and my wife, and at that point we only had 2 children. Now we have 6. So they brought the sign in that said, let you have your faith over fear. So that was a good reminder for the first 6 to 12 months for sure. It's still good to look at from time to time. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey over the last 7.5 years. It's been good. Ups and downs throughout. From the investment side, last year was not a fun year for those of you that have investments. You're down anywhere from 15 to 50%, depending on what you're invested in. So, that's not that exciting. But on the positive note, anything you're buying is on sale right now. So, but so since that was the investing side is a piece of what we do, that's one other reason that we had rebranded versus just, like I said, the financial planning is a big piece of what we do as well. And so letting people know that is an area that they can work with us regardless of if we manage their investments or not. They still can come to us for fee-only financial advice, and we provide objective advice to allow them to do that. And sometimes they choose to utilize us, but if they have somebody else at another place they really like for various things, they have the ability to do that with them or even on their own. So.
Thank you, John. And then last but not least, Tonya, a little bit about Thrive Psychological and Consulting Services. They're a new business here in Menominee, so excited to learn more.
Yes, thank you. We're kind of new. I started a private practice. I'm a school psychologist, and there's only a handful of us. I'm licensed through DPI, the Department of Public Education, and then there's a handful of us in the state that also have a private practice license through the Psychology Board. And I chose to pursue that back in 2015. And started a private practice, very small. And so Thrive started out as K-12 psychoeducational services, and quickly learned that there's a huge need for people to understand dyslexia, which is a reading disability. And that became my niche, my area of specialty. And I served people they would come from Michigan, from the cities, just random word of mouth, still haven't done any marketing. That's kind of our struggle that we have to learn how to do. So I did that very part-time, just as clients would call in. And initially we had, we had a separate place on our property, on our house that I could work out of. And then we chose not to do that any longer, and just rented a small office space as needed from a local business. And so then that kind of settled. It was just very small time, part-time. And a couple years ago, my husband, John, who works at Stout in the clinical mental health department, he and I were just talking, and he had been invited to do he started being invited to do some public speaking in school districts. Him and I both were doing some speaking, and then he had some other things he was involved in. And so I just said, we need to start funneling all of this through through my private practice. And we just decided to change it up a little bit. We changed the name to Thrive Psychological and Consulting Services. And we just, for the first time, it was really slow process. I am fiercely independent, and I'm learning how to be less. But I figured everything out on my own. I figured out how to create an LLC, and just I've done everything on my own until we hit the credentialing process. So we just hired our first mental health therapist. We got a space at the City Hall on the 3rd floor. We're sharing the space with Foundations Therapy. That started in June. That was our first big commitment to Thrive, I think, financially. And we're just slowly, things are slowly unfolding. We do have a therapist, like I said, and we're going through the credentialing process with insurance companies, which is a huge barrier, I think, to a lot of services. And so I finally did hire someone to help us through that process, let go of some of that control. So we offer, we really have a heart to just we have a lot of experience in our practice, and our heart is to really, truly, without sounding cheesy or trite, really help people live fully and thrive. John is super gifted at conceptualizing people and understanding why they do what they do, and is able to offer a lot of support to our therapist, who also is very good at working. She has an experience working with clients who have been involved with drug rehabilitation. So we just recently got approved for Medicaid, individual providers as Medicaid, not a clinical. So we're hoping to reach. We're trying to remove as many barriers as possible to help people with mental health, counseling services, and also we provide consultation. John does a lot of public speaking, and then I provide evaluations for learning disabilities.
Thank you, Tonya. Each of you kind of touched base a little bit about jumping into a business and just keep on going with what it was and it's working, and some have changed business names and some have started out. So let's touch base a little bit about branding and why it's important and why you switched and what colors are important and what licensing people need and what you've learned along the way. So if any of you just kind of jump in here and there, feel free to offer what you know.
Well, I'll start by saying I did, although I did have a friend who I hired to create a logo for us, because that was something that was well outside of my field. And she just, asked me what colors I was looking for, and then just created our logo for us. And honestly, even though I started this practice back in 2015 and we really became Thrive about, I think about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I just learned about branding about a month ago. So like, this is truly a learning curve. Literally are just taking one step at a time and just trusting our passion and the process. So, but I did learn a lot about branding. I didn't realize I have a friend that knows a tremendous amount about it. So.
That was probably when I bought Lakeview, the branding was one of probably the biggest hurdles. Having like taken over an existing business and kind of slowly transitioning it from where it had been to where it felt like it needed to be. I had a great opportunity to have a previous boss who was in graphic design and branding for Target Corporation in Minneapolis. And so I learned from her a ton about how important it was. And so we made the transition 17 years ago to kind of go to our trademark, like green and black, because the green just kind of highlights a lot of like the product that we have in the store and is a neutral and good, like with all different seasons. And then I don't know, as you can see, I'm a fan of black as a color. So that was just a good backdrop for a lot of things. And then we did a rebrand about 5 years ago. Again, kept the same color palette, kept the same style, just updated the fonts and the logos and things so that they look more relevant. But I don't see us changing from our trademark green as a branding color anytime soon. We've invested in all those lights for that tree out in our front yard, and I think I'd get hate mail if we quit doing that at this point. So for us, that green was just a good backdrop color no matter what the seasons were. And in terms of style or the way that makes you feel, it's a calming color. It's more serene, which means it works well for celebratory things for us, as well as the large amount of sympathy work that we do.
Yeah, I think green's a good color there, Lacy. If you change those lights to red, that might not be very good. Well, I don't know a lot about branding. I've learned a lot over the years, and when I left my original company, went on my own, we'd had kind of a team name, and so I maintained that. And so Heartland Financial Associates Wealth Management was our name, and colors were red and things, and because I liked red, and I remember red and an off grayish type color, and black and white, and I don't know, a hodgepodge of things. And so as I learned more about branding, I'm like, oh, all of our colors except for black are not positive inducing, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, for people to look at them. So when I rebranded in early 2020, revisited the color palette that we used, and so I went with that. From a name perspective, went with more of the planning in there, right? Retirement planning. That's a big piece of what we do. Whereas if it's wealth management or investment or something like that, many times it's a part, but it may not be as big of a piece. And so to be able to differentiate that's a core piece that people can utilize as just for that, even if they don't want to utilize this for investments. It allowed us to do that. And then strategies, solutions, there was various pieces at the end that thought of utilizing, but actually compliance wouldn't let us use solutions because they said we can't guarantee a solution. I said, well, anyway. So we came up with strategies at the end, finally, reluctantly, I guess, was probably how that came about. Little more fiery at that point I was, but it works out well. I probably should have shortened our email, as our email is at synergyretirementplanning.com, but could have just done like Synergy RPS or something, but I won't be rebranding that, and that'll be what it is. But yeah, so I mean, I think the other part of branding, as I've transitioned over the years, is focusing on what can we do, and obviously being the face of the brand along with our staff, Brianna and Christine. So regardless of what the name of the company is and who the company is that they're looking at, us and our staff as the actual brand, I think has been a big key for us as a business.
Yeah, I think, John, when you rebranded, I remembered that you did a lot of due diligence prior to that and sent out like, hey, these are like 4 or 5 things that we're thinking of. And you solicited thoughts and ideas from potential clients and clients to kind of find that out. So to say like, I don't know a lot about this, you knew that, and you went and you got help or asked for help. And that, I think, was a really cool strategy that you took with it and got more people involved and on board with that change for you.
I appreciate that. I forgot I even did that. Yes. Yeah, I did send out, which is good because, as you're rebranding, you have a whole bunch of different designs and options. And I thought, well, yeah, we'll send it out to get other people's opinion, because you don't want to create a whole new logo and it makes everybody mad or they don't like it and it doesn't gel. So yeah, I appreciate that feedback. Yeah, I'd forgotten I even did that.
I think sometimes with our businesses, we're so close to it. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees, and we can like make a new logo or come up with a new policy or a new marketing idea, and we're so close to it that we use in our own industry lingo and things that we assume other people know. So to reach out to like outside of that and be able to kind of like make sure that people outside of it, your actual clients, can connect with it.
Yeah, that's a valid point. And I think we had 8 options now, if I remember right, that we sent out for people looking. Our current logo that we have, and there's a few variations that we have of that, which is nice. It worked out well. But I want to say 95% of the people picked the main logo that we have as the top option, and then a couple of variations, and then there's a few one-offs that people picked. But I thought, well, that's a pretty good, and my wife liked that one the best too. So that worked out that my wife liked it, and everyone else resounding said that was their favorite option too. So
Yeah, I think all three of you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said rebranding. It's not just a logo or color. It's about the people and what you represent, and your people is your brand. We're doing a little bit of at that at the chamber too. It's hard to, like Lacy said, when you're so close to the trade and the lingo and the language, how do you communicate to the public what your brand is and what experience you want them to get? So thank you for that. Being the leaders in your industries for so long, what maybe learning lessons that you could share, roadblocks that you've come into that might help a future entrepreneur to avoid? Any of you can pop in at any time.
I think when I started, I severely underestimated the amount of time I was going to spend in my office just keeping the business itself going. It's like I started as a delivery driver and doing customer service in high school, and then learned design work and went to college and things. And I thought when I came back and I bought Lakeview, like, I'm going to design flowers all day. I'm going to do customer service all day. I'm going to, and I think a lot of people in the community think that I do all of those things here, but I actually have a really awesome team of about 10 that actually keeps the train on the tracks around here. But like, I underestimated how much time it would take to actually keep the business floating in terms of making sure everybody gets paid, vendors get paid, keeping your space and your building upkept and ready to go, and some of those kinds of things. So yeah, for any entrepreneur who's interested in starting something, be sure to build into your schedule, hours a week to work on the business, not just in the business. I'm still trying to get a handle on it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I can't say I'm an expert in the field, and I haven't been doing it that long, but that is where we're trying to find that balance now. I think you get to a place where you have to really take a step of faith, or, where you just, we've always been in a situation where I could work very, very much part-time, or have a substantial part-time position. And now as we're growing, most of the time that I need to spend in the business is that behind the scenes, the paperwork in the office, and just talking about finding that balance. What's that going to look like? And when do I start moving away from my outside part-time work and really devote? But a lot of it has been on a computer, doing the behind the scenes. Some little things like finding a phone service, finding internet service, all of those things that have to be done that you do at home have to be done for a business as well. And then, so agree.
yeah, it's thinking back. I guess one, it's good to be prepared. So plan ahead of time before you do that. If you have an entrepreneur, if you have another job, as Dave Ramsey likes to say, get the boat closer to the dock before you make the leap. It's always a good thing to do. And also have from a financial perspective, right? Make sure you have some emergency reserves set aside in the event it takes you a little bit to get your business up and running. Maybe actually one of the smart investors here in the area. So that's, been doing that for, 8 years now too. But from a investor, from a side note on the emergency reserves, when you're starting, you probably, instead of your normal 3 to 6, have that 6 to 12. Once again, because you'll probably go through more cash flow than you expect when you're starting a business, especially if it's from scratch. If you are able to buy another business, they already have some systems in place potentially, so you may not have to do quite as much. But and as Lacy and Tonya both said, expect more time. The one thing I will say is hire sooner than you think you're ready to, depending on what your business is, of course. I look back and I'm not sure if I'm quite ready yet. Yeah, I could have hired much sooner than I did. I'm still not real good at delegation, but I've gotten better over the years. So that would be another thing, is make sure you get really good at delegating sooner than later. It will help you be focusing, on the things that you can do versus something that someone else can potentially do even better than you. Even though as an entrepreneur, Lacy and Tonya, you probably can agree with this. Sometimes we think nobody can do it better than us, but I've learned over the years that people can do it better than me.
All right, so how about a success or aha moment when you're behind the scenes and you're like, not that you have it all together, because no one ever really does, but what is like one success or one learning lesson or trait kind of alongside or in addition to what you've already shared that you can share with our new entrepreneurs in the area?
We talk a lot here about and it seems probably countercultural, but if you take good care of people, money will follow it. But if you chase money, you're never gonna win that battle. You just, take good care of people, and then the business will take care of itself.
I would agree with that. I remember, so I've been in business for almost 18 years now. And prior to doing what I do, I was the nerd in college that took income tax and business finance for fun. And so it was a determination of, I had a double major in actuarial science and business. And so did I want to see people or not? I decided I did. And my dad, who wasn't in the industry at all, but he had always said, regardless of what you do, to Lacy's point, if you keep your client's best interest in mind, you may not make the most money, but you'll be successful and stay in business. And obviously in our industry, best interest for our clients is called fiduciary, which we are. No idea back in 2005 what that even meant, but now I do it, and we've dealt with that a lot over the years. I think from a success point as well of whatever you do as a business, it's good to have some of those wins and focus on the things that you're passionate about to be able to help people with. I know I look back, like I said, one of the things we do is retirement planning, and some of my pet peeves. There's a lot of things out there, right? I mean, you can type in retirement calculator and type in all kinds of numbers, but that only looks at your numbers. It doesn't take a look into other things. And one individual we worked with, they had some, I'll call them talking heads, right, that said he has to work till about 72 before he could retire. So we were able to analyze it and walk him through it and say, well, actually, you're going to be 62 next year. You should be able to retire. You'll still be fine. Your worst case scenario, you run out of money when you're like 95, right? Well, thankfully he listened to us, and he retired at 62. He died last year at 67. His wife is still going to be fine, but if he wouldn't have taken our advice or we wouldn't be able to talk to him, he'd have been working till he died. And so I think that's some of the things of it reaffirms us, right? Kind of refills you up of what you do, of being able to say, all right, well, what we do, sometimes it doesn't feel like it always matters or people, take the advice or enjoy it, but things like that. I'll call that a win of being able to help someone achieve what they want to achieve in a sooner time frame.
Well, we've had a small success in this. I think really just the learning, just the personal growth that starting a business, and you learn a lot about yourself. I've learned that I have major trust issues, but my biggest success was letting go and letting someone do our credentialing, and it's been amazing. The first experience was not good. Word of mouth in a small town goes a long way. So I am learning to start asking other entrepreneurs, who do you use for legal stuff? Who do you use for accounting? Who do you use for credentialing? And I have landed on a lot of success with that. So.
So before the session actually started, I got some one-on-one time with Tonya, and she indicated that she's trying to not let her sponge get so full. I like that reference. So the whole thought process behind today was, how do we get through winter? How do we get through new entrepreneurship? How do we get through our day-to-day struggles? So how do you currently make sure your sponge doesn't get too full that you can share with us?
In the interest of being completely transparent, I'm terrible at this. Like the last 2 years in particular have been awful for that. Like to the point that like I've slept at work some nights because it just has not been worth it to go home, and then come back and stuff. But moving forward this year, we're going to be more intentional as a team. And as well, like I know I've gone through my calendar for this entire year and I have blocked off like I'm gone this week and I'm on vacation this week, and doing things that like blocking that time off, because if you don't do that, if you're not intentional about it, no one else is going to give you time to take care of yourself. And so I guess I'm gonna hopefully this year make my calendar do that work for me, by telling it what I want it to look like, not necessarily just letting it fill itself up any way that it sees fit. But yeah, I'm not good at this, so I would love to hear what everybody else says about it.
Well, I'm not the best either. I've gotten better over the years. My wife has helped me with that. I remember back in 2011, I was volunteer of the year for the organization in the state of Wisconsin. And my wife said, well, congratulations, you can do that again or stay married, your choice. and it's one of those things that you do a lot of things on your calendar. You volunteer on this committee, that committee, board, whatever. And you think, oh, it's just a little bit here, a little bit there. Well, then when you look at it, it's a lot. So I've gotten much better at saying no. And if I'm going to add anything, I have to take it off, another thing off my plate. So last year, I guess technically 21, the end of 2021, any board that I was on that my term was up, I got off. So I'm down to the Community Foundation, I'm an ambassador, and I have a couple subcommittees, which was quite a change from being on 3, 4, 5 boards, 6 boards at a time. But of course, with 6 kids, that takes a lot of time as well. So from 12 years old to year and a half in age range. So I've done that. Definitely I'm not perfect, but being more intentional with my calendar. Back in the day, I would drive anywhere for appointments at any time for whatever. And so we have an online calendar. People can schedule appointments anytime. But we set times that they can schedule that. So I know on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, that's when I have appointments. Now I do make exceptions to those rules. I've heard other people say don't. I still do every now and then for certain people. If you have to, right, you have every other Friday off or whatever it is. So I still will take appointments on Mondays and Fridays. But it's, I know when my schedule is. I've increased, I've upped when I end my day. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, my last appointment starts at 3:30. Wednesday, my last in-person starts at 4:30. So I still have a few appointments after that, but they're only virtual or phone that people can schedule them. So that way I can still be home. And even if I'm not helping with the kids, from a mental perspective, it still helps Rochelle a little bit. So it's, like Lacy said, being cognizant of the schedule on the calendar and taking control of it versus just letting it happen. I think is a good way. But yes, I am still working on that for sure.
I think that when you're starting for us, there's a lot of newness happening, and we underestimate the time that each newness activity will take. So we are slowly learning how to budget our time with our private practice. But just on a personal level, we are both in the helping field, and I actually almost vomit when I hear the term self-care these days, just because it's so overused and people make it sound so simple. And really, or, do want to, everyone has the answer of what to do. And I think it really just comes down to self-reflection, having really solid relationships in your life, and then figuring out what your flow is with things that you do that you just get lost in and time just goes by that bring you joy. And then just making sure you have scheduled time for that each day. For each of those things, connection is key. Connection and flow is sort of what we talk about. So yeah, but it's so easy. I too I was the president to my state association. And it was a 4-year commitment that I made 3.5 years ago. And my husband looked at me and said, "That is not a good idea, Tonya. What are you thinking?" I'm like, "Oh, I think it's going to be great. I'm going to learn so much. I'm going to make great connections." And I got to do it right through COVID. So I just underestimated, I just, the emotion of it all, the excitement. Took away reasoning. So it's really good to have people in your life that can help reason things. And part of it is just, for us, what we're learning is you just learn and make adjustments. I scheduled too many evaluations 1 month, and I was not a pleasant person to be around. So I knew that I had to reduce that. So it's just being intentional and reflection for us.
I think that it seems like it changes too, like Tonya being a little earlier in your business, and John mentioned this too, when you're starting out, you're hustling. You're taking every appointment you can get, every meeting you can get, you're trying to get the word out there. It's a different season of business. And then as you go through seasons, you almost have to reevaluate every year what like a good flow would be in, with John having children. It's going to look different for him 10 years from now in terms of how much his home life, requires, as opposed to now. Or, it's not really like well, this is the answer and that stays the answer for forever. We're constantly having to reevaluate it and figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. All of you made, but yeah, it depends on the season and the individual entrepreneur's lifestyle, family setting. I would like to talk a little bit. You've said what businesses you have. So we're gonna go in like Lacy, Tonya, John. Talk a little bit about, because the flowers and the scents. Do you have any information that you could share with the public or entrepreneurs about what goods or services you have that you could help right now, get them, lift their spirits? And then, Lacy, it's, Lakeview Floral. To me, that means just flowers, but I know you offer so much more than that. So if you can talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go right into Tonya about what services you can provide individuals. I know you're in a school district as well, but one-on-one what you can provide. And then John will follow up with that with a little retirement 22-23 comparison plan.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, those of us that work here consider ourselves really lucky at this time of the year because we can be surrounded by tropical plants and flowers and tons of color all the time. We do have, in our storefront, like, come and see us. It's free. You can hang out in the front cooler as long as you want. If you need a pick me up, like, that's why we're here. That's where that, you take care of people. Like if someone comes in and they're like, I just need to like hang out for a while. Yeah, get in here, spend some time. Like, you want a cup of coffee while you're walking around? Like, so yeah, it's scientifically proven that flowers boost people's memory retention, decrease dementia, and and I don't know the science behind it, but I've almost got to believe it's like, because it's a living thing, it's something that also is, is, I guess I don't know how to explain it other than that, but it's like a living item, that's also taking in, carbon dioxide, turning it back into oxygen for us, and stuff. But yeah, the bright colors, the fragrances. I know that like in the winter, our delivery drivers have some of the best jobs. The roads are kind of crappy, but people are so happy to see you. And it's like you can't outgive like someone being happy to see you knock on their front door, or we get to be part of so many happy moments. And even if it's a less than happy occasion for sympathy or something, you're helping someone to put some emotions into a tangible object and getting to be part of that vehicle. And so the mental health effects of that are great for here. Most of our business is fresh cut flowers, but we also do tropical houseplants, and have a storefront with gift items. So puzzles have been a really big one for us, especially in the winter. We see that we sell more of that around the holidays, and now going into like January, February, as a way to like occupy our minds when it's dark outside by 5 o'clock. And most of what we carry is like botanically oriented. So it's flowers and plants and bright colors and things like that as well. Our business is a really seasonal business, so things change here every handful of months. So, right now we're gearing up for Valentine's Day, which is a beast all on its own. And then we transition into spring things, Easter, Mother's Day. Prom is something we only get to do once a year with corsages and boutonnieres. We do a memorial urn program as well, where we deliver to cemeteries and place items at specific gravestones, and then can take pictures and send to the person who ordered it, because most of the time they don't live here. They can't actually see what that is. And then we deliver, or we pick those things up in the fall so people can reuse the same pots and the same stands. Our product also changes, which I think really helps to keep us on our toes, because we really can't get bored around here. We see things for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's gone for the rest of the year. And we move on to a new type of flower, a new type of plant that's available. So, yeah. Did I cover everything you wanted, Melissa? Okay.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Before we move on, any upcoming classes? Sometimes you'll do classes in the winter. Is that on the radar for this year at all?
Yeah, we don't have any classes currently.
Okay.
Man, they were gaining traction and it was going really well. And then COVID. And I think probably with anybody else on the call who has, has a team, hiring has been really not fun the last like year and a half, and finding a team member who wants to take on that portion of our business. We just don't have the right fit for that right now. And I know my plate's too full to take it. So
thank you. Thank you. Tonya?
Well, yeah, not obviously, anxiety has been higher than it's ever been in our society. And with winter often comes depression for a lot of people. And so really the best thing, obviously what we can offer is counseling. We have a therapist who does have openings. But the best thing to do is to do pretty much the opposite of what you feel like doing. You need to connect with people. You need to get out and just move. It doesn't have, the people use the term exercise, but it really is just moving your body. Is very profound for mental health, and getting outside, getting fresh air, nature. So I would say the best thing for people to do during winter, and to squeeze out some of that sponge if they're really full, is to really not isolate, connect, get outside and move. Talking to people is very therapeutic. That's why we have counselors. Not keeping things a secret if you are struggling with mental health. 1 in 5 of us do. So there's no shame. The best thing to do is reach out and get support for that. We are hoping to start, my husband and I have years and years of group therapy experience, and we both have worked specifically with adolescents. So we are hoping to start an anxiety group for teenagers over the next several months to get that going. What else? And yeah, I think that's all I have. So, but you know, that's our business, is to really help people who are struggling with mental health. So we would be happy to do presentations or talks or, you know, anything like that that could spread the word.
Thank you, Tonya. And John, I will share my screen so you can start.
All right, so we created, make sure I did unmute, okay. Excuse me. We created some pieces to try to make investing easier to understand. And so this is looks like the 2023 possibly. It's the same thing on the front, on the back. It will have what you can contribute in dollar amounts in the specific tax year. So anybody that wants these, I emailed the PDFs to Melissa, or you're welcome to reach out to me and I can get them to you as well. But this talks about how can you save for retirement. And there's a couple options, and there's various layers. So the first layer is always for the IRS. I know the joys, right? But always remember, we pay Uncle Sam what he's owed, but we don't leave him a tip. Okay. So your best option generally is going to be qualified money. And that's going to be in 2 buckets: pre-tax or after-tax or post-tax. You can see in the pre-tax bucket are your traditional IRA, which would be an individual account for yourself. You can see on the, yeah, I'll walk through this and we'll go to the second. So traditional IRA, you have through, if you're an independent or a entrepreneur, you could have an individual or a solo 401k. A SEP IRA, generally then if you work for someone else, you're going to have maybe a traditional 401k, maybe a nonprofit 403b, TSA, county, state, some type of a government entity, 457 deferred comp. From a tax perspective, they're all the same. You receive a tax deduction for anything you put into them. They grow tax deferred, which means you don't pay any taxes on the money while it sits in the account. And then when you take the money out in the future, generally 59.5, there's a few exceptions to those rules. We won't get into all those today, but generally 59.5, it's 100% taxable at whatever your tax bracket is at that time. You can see on the far right side, it's ordinary income. So if you get a 1099 or W-2, that's how that type of income works when you take it out in the future. The other qualified bucket is after tax would be a Roth. So you can see in their Roth IRA, which you would do on your own or with an investment professional, a Roth 401k, 403b, 457. So any of those other types of large employer plans, you can have a Roth option. There currently is not a Roth option for the SEP Simple. They've talked about it, but there isn't yet. And so from a investment perspective, you do not receive a tax deduction today for those contributions. The money still grows tax deferred, so there's no taxes owed on it while it's in the account. The difference is in the future, if you meet the requirements, and there's 2. One, the original account has been open for 5 years and you're 59.5, everything in that account is tax-free. So you can see on there, no tax. Of course, we have to put the disclosures in there, right, based on everything. But generally speaking, if you follow those rules, it's going to be tax-free for you. Now, there's also non-qualified money. So this is after-tax dollars as well. There's no preferential tax treatment. That's why I call it non-qualified. So technically, like a bank account is non-qualified, right? You get the 1099 for the $3.57 you earned. whether you took any money out or not. So you can also have those in investing. You'd have an individual account or a joint, maybe with a partner or a spouse of some sort. And so every year, whether you take money out of those accounts or not, you will pay some taxes on dividends and capital gains if they are in those accounts. And so that's from our perspective. If you have those types of accounts, we generally recommend we invest those differently for our clients to try to avoid some of those capital gains and dividends. You may hear the words low turnover or tax efficient, tax managed. Those are types of accounts that you're going to use more in the individual and joint versus where a qualified account, it doesn't matter what type of turnover there is, because those taxes are deferred until you actually take money out, or maybe not at all. Now, if you want to scroll down, Melissa. So for 2023, you can see here what the contribution limits are for each of those. In an employer plan, if you're under age 50, you can do up to $22,500 in the 2023 calendar year. If you're over 50, you get catch-up contributions. So that's an additional $7,500 this year. So you can do up to $30,000 in some type of an employer plan. If it's your own account, whether it's a Roth or traditional IRA, you can do up to $6,500 or $7,500 if you're over age 50. And I also want to touch on that. So some people will ask me, well, can I do a Roth and a traditional IRA? The answer is yes, but your combined limit is $6,500 or $7,500, depending on your age. And it also does not affect your contribution limit to one of those employer plans. So if you're under 50, technically you could do up to $22,500 in a Roth 401k and $6,500 into a Roth IRA. Now your Roth IRA will also, it has the limit of $6,500 or 100% of earned income. So if you only make $3,000, you can only put $3,000 into that account. But technically you could make $25,000 for the year and max out both a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k, even though technically that's over how much you earned in the calendar year. The other thing I want to throw out there is some people in relationships don't have a spouse that works. So they may stay home or they're retired. So in our case, Rochelle stays home with our 6 kids, homeschools. Daycare would be, can't even imagine if she didn't. So, so she doesn't, well, now she has a little bit, but she didn't have earned income. We can still make a contribution for her up to $6,500 as long as I have that earned income myself. So as long as one person in the household makes up to whatever the limit is combined, the other person can have those contributions even without any income coming in. Other employer plans are the SEP or the simple IRA, and you can see the limits there. And then the SEP IRA. The SEP IRA is all employer. There is no employee contributions. So generally you saw this with like farms or individual small businesses, and it's up to 25% of the compensation. You can see the limit is $66,000. Technically, that's the limit on any of those plans in the top as well, between your contributions as an employee and your business's contributions as an employer, whether that's through matches or profit sharing. So if you were over age 50 and had a Roth 401k that you can contributed $30,000 to, your employer could put up to $36,000 into that between any profit sharing they want to do as a business or matching. From a contribution perspective, you have until April 15th for that Roth or traditional IRA, or if you're a business owner, a SEP IRA. You have those till tax filing deadline to make those contributions for the prior tax year. So in 2022, your contribution limits for a Roth or traditional were $6,000 or $7,000 if you were over age 50. So you have until April 15th-ish of this year to make those contributions for last year if you haven't yet, which is a nice thing to have. And from a dollar and cents perspective, most of the time when we're looking at how we should contribute, if you're in the 12% or under tax bracket, the Roth is going to make the most sense because you're going to be paying about 15 cents on the dollar today in taxes, but everything's going to be tax-free for you. If you're in that 22 to 24% bracket, we generally still recommend Roth, but that's going to be kind of your choice. Once you get above that, we generally recommend the traditional or pre-tax, because now you're going to be saving anywhere from 30 to 50 cents on the dollar in taxes today for that contribution you make. Now, you can change what you do every year as well. So we have some people that have been doing Roth for a long time. They've gotten raises. Now, based on their income, they've switched to the traditional or the pre-tax to save the taxes today versus paying the taxes. So you can change that at any time or do some combination as well. These are just your IRS limits that the most that they will allow you to contribute each year. And there's also income limitations with some of those as well. I know we're running short on time, so I won't get into all that. But if you do make too much and can't make certain contributions, there's a backdoor Roth, non-deductible traditional IRA contributions, things of that nature. So feel free to reach out to myself or someone else if you have questions on that. You don't want the IRS knocking on your door, but so hopefully that was enough in a short time frame that still made sense.
Yes, thank you all. We are running short on time. I don't know if anyone has any questions other than Lisa's comment about her mom remembers when John sent out that branding questionnaire as well. But again, I just want to thank the three of you for providing all the knowledge nuggets and lessons for the public and any new entrepreneurs. And thank you for those that joined us live or will watch the recording. Our next time that we'll be running an Entrepreneurs in Action will be April 5th from 2 to 3. Currently our speakers for that are Govins Farm. I'm sure they'll be talking about their baby lambs that'll be coming up that season. And then Woodwind Park may have some background on the chalet updates for them and activities out there. So yeah, I think you guys covered a lot. It boils down to being intentional, having that peer development, which there's many opportunities through the chamber and other places as well, and make sure your sponge doesn't get full. And you can find any of our presenters on our business directory, but I do want to read their addresses as well. So Tonya, she indicated she is at the City Hall for her services, John at 393 Red Cedar Street here in Menominee, and Lacy, Lakeview 1802 Stout Road. So thank you again, and we will see you in April.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Sharing. Bye-bye.
Thank you.